A big part of successful development depends on the effectiveness of public sector administrators or the civil service. Now, my next guest has been working on this topic for quite some time and has been working on this sector for a few years and has been working on how to strengthen it and improve it for the near future. Welcome, Dan Rogger.
Hey.
You are the co-lead of the World Bank's Bureaucracy Lab. Now, civil service is not really thought of as the most exciting area of research. Now, I can say it because I studied it myself, but oftentimes that's the comment that I get. What made you interested in studying it in the first place?
I was doing my master's and I got a call and they said, you're going to Nigeria, you're working for the presidency. And I was scared, I took a gulp, and I was also excited because I thought we could really make development happen. We're working for the head of the executive of a huge West African nation. And then we got there, we worked as ODI fellows on a whole range of different topics, taking good research ideas. And you realize that it's vital to have good ideas. But unless the bureaucracy is on board, unless that cadre of public administrators, the people who are turning good ideas into development realities, unless they're on board, you're not going to get development outcomes. You're not going to change good ideas into real life improvements in well-being. And so it got me hooked. And once you get hooked, you see that it's actually the greatest show on earth. It looks incredibly boring, but that's why it's so exciting. You kind of peek behind the curtain and you see the politics and the fights, good and bad, for trying to get these development outcomes to happen. So since then I've been working on it because I think it's exciting.
So that's how it all started.
Yeah.
Can you tell me then, why is an understanding of bureaucracy so important to the World Bank's work, especially to our twin goals of eradicating poverty and sharing prosperity?
So firstly, so many of the World Bank's projects are working with government partners. They are actually critically dependent on government partners enabling us to do work in the developing world. And so if we don't have capable civil servants who really want to work with us, projects are just going to fail. And so if you look across the portfolio of the bank's projects, when you've seen a fantastic impact project, so often if you scratch behind the surface, there's a set of really hard-working, capable public servants behind them. But then beyond that, if government wants to implement its own policies, if we want to take the best ideas from around the world and put them up to scale, then you need a machinery, and that machinery is government. And the nuts and bolts of that government machine are the public officials making choices every day that determine whether the bank's policies or everyone else's are actually turning into good development outcomes.
What do you think is the World Bank's role in getting to, I guess, a better understanding of how governments are being effective when it comes to civil service?
The World Bank has long had quite an important role in sort of advising countries on how they should be formed or how they should be shaped. We're often seen as the people to come to. And for a long time, that was quite theory-based. Now, what I think is exciting about now and in the future is that we're changing from theory-based to empirical-based, sort of using numbers, measurement, to try and understand why the government isn't working as it should. And the bank has a long history of doing this in lots of sectors. So in the 1980s, we went out and we measured poor households around the world. And so now if you go on to the Development Data Hub, every country in the world has surveys telling you what people across that country look like. And then we did it for the enterprise surveys in the 1990s. So we said, what does the private sector look like? And in both cases, the World Bank has gained expertise in methodological experiments. How do you do these surveys? It's used its convening power to bring academia and policy together. And it's also given us the chance to become experts in these big public goods, pooling together lots and lots of data from around the world, harmonizing it, aggregating it in a way that's interesting. And so it's the public sector's turn. And so for me, that's what I spend most of my time doing. I think we can now move into measuring the public administration, measuring how the public sector works in the same way we've done citizens and households, the private sector, and now the public sector.
Now, I'm from West Africa, and I know that you've learned a lot in that region, especially in Ghana. What did you learn there, and how is that applicable maybe to other regions and countries?
So, I spent a lot of time in Nigeria, spent a lot of time in Ghana. Ghana's incredible. Amazing music, great food. I would argue, the best pineapple in the world.
Oh.
I know, it's a bold statement.
The pineapple from Benin are amazing.
Okay, we can have that argument later. Maybe
Later,
with some
maybe
samples.
off camera.
Okay. And what we had in Ghana was we were very lucky, not just with how great Ghana is, but how great the head of the civil service was. So Nana is typically known as. And he wanted to know what his public service looked like. So myself, two academic researchers, Martin Williams and Imran Rasool, he asked us to go out and measure. And so we did a survey of all public officials. What's your life like? You know, who do you work with? Is it frustrating to work with these people? What about politicians? What about the citizens that you work with? Tell us all about your life in a very detailed microeconometric way. And we did the same for productivity. How well have you actually implemented every single task that you're supposed to be doing? How fast do you do it? And we laid this picture out in front of him. And we said, what do you think? And he took a moment. He actually came here to the bank and he said to us, I've never seen my civil service until today.
Wow.
And so you're opening the eyes of the real change maker, the head of the civil service, by using standard measurement techniques that we're applying elsewhere. So then he said to us, I want to ask you some more detailed questions. He said, what about the capability of my staff? Let's raise it. And so we did a randomized control trial.
Okay.
And we, just like an experiment in medicine, we randomized different ways of trying to build the capability of his civil servants. And we got good results. And then he said, I want you to work on this. So what we've been able to do is give him answers. Now, what he did was he immediately changed some of the rules of the civil service. For example, he strengthened accountability around chief directors. Okay. He said, I'm going to change how I keep my people accountable, because that's what baseline civil servants were asking for. And now we're actually looking at helping him define even more reforms. And this is the important thing. Trying to change government through law is a very difficult task. You've got to get the whole of Parliament on side. Whereas if you can get a good head of service who really cares about data, then the bank can provide that data and little changes can echo out through the whole civil service. And I think that's where we've made a difference. He now uses data in everything. We're setting up a bureaucracy lab in the Ghanaian head of civil service.
I didn't know that.
We are.
That's quite amazing.
And so we're changing the de facto, the everyday realities of government in Ghana. And then if down the line we get to do a legal change, a big law change, great. But if you look at the histories of UK, US, these things don't happen with seismic shifts in the legal way government is set up. It happens by great insiders shifting around how things work to just tweak them, make them better, make them more empirically founded.
Maybe moving a bit more onto the technical side, how do you really measure the effectiveness of public administrators? How does that work?
Right, so we all know that when you measure the effectiveness of a private firm, an easy way to do that is just look at its profitability. We don't have the same measure in the public sector. You wouldn't want to, because the cost of sending someone to school, or maybe the price of that individual benefiting from school, doesn't reflect all the externalities, all the great things about public goods, which the public sector provides so many of. So what we do is we break it down into lots of pieces. We start by saying, well, what are the tasks that you're supposed to do? Did you complete them? And we have independent assessors, independent auditors come in from the civil service and just say, did you complete the tasks you promised the government? And then we say, what about the quality? In Nigeria, we sent out independent engineers to test the extent to which all the different projects they were supposed to do were actually implemented. We look at the speed of processes. We look at citizen satisfaction. So what we're saying is, let's collect a multitude, like a dashboard of indicators, and then we can see where in the productivity chain things are failing. And so that's what we gave in Ghana, in Nigeria, in other countries where we're working. That's what we're trying to do. Give them the levers to try and work out where they can improve things.
Thank you so much. And maybe one last quick question. Where do we go from here? What's next for the Bureaucracy Lab?
My ambitions are that we build a data framework, just like we've done for poverty, or just like the bank's done in all the other sectors for the public sector. We give it back to public sector managers all over the world, like the US has given it back to their public sector managers. Let's do that for everyone else. And then we work with those people, both through randomized controlled trials. I'm at DIME, which is an initiative at the bank that does all these RCTs. and beyond, and we work with them to change government step by step, hand in hand.
Thank you so much, Dan. I've learned a lot,
so
and
much,
I can say that your passion for the topic is very contagious.
Yes.
Thank you so much.